Hi, my name is Will, and I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Will, thank you very much for coming on the
Thank you for having me.
Pondcast today. Of course. You are known as the Metal Music Man. Why? Why is that?
I was 11 years old on CompuServe dial-up, which is the poverty version of America Online. And I was making an internet handle, and it took me so many hours. And I thought, I like metal music, and alliteration is cool because I'm 12. And then I was like, what's another
I thought you were
M?
going to say it's because you like metal music and men.
And I mean, only 50% of the time, give or take. But you know, they're all right. Yeah, they're all right. I give it a 51 to women. But like I don't know. I just like alliterated it, and I was like, yeah. And I don't do this thing that all of the Zoomers do now, which drives me nuts, where Zoomers are just changing their handles all the time. Like I'll play games with like my nephew, and he's like, oh, my handle is blah now. Oh, my handle is blah now. Or like the people I play, like I play competitive fighting games and stuff. Sometimes they're a bit younger, and it's just like, oh no, now it like this new tournament, it's like, who are you? And then it's like, hey, you're Bob. I talked to you last week. Why is your name different? And they're like, I didn't like it. So anyway, it's not a great name, but it's my name, so I keep it.
I think it's a wonderful name. I think you should keep it, and I think you should officially change your government name to Metal Music Man.
To Metal Music Man, I think that would go over well. Yeah, I think everyone would appreciate just having to say an alliterative. Well, that's the other thing too, is some people will do it like, now you prefer Metal Music Man. I'm like, metal's fine. Like you could just say metal. But the problem with metal is it's just like such a generic word. But I mean, Will's a pretty generic name, so it's like, you know, whichever one really works is fine by me.
Do you ever go by Will I Am?
I don't. I am not the leader of the Black Eyed Peas. I did not make a song,
greatest band in history,
that was radio edited to "Let's Get It Started."
Let's not mention what that song originally was. Well, Will, we are going to do our random generator. We are going to talk a random topic, and boy, I am excited to see what this is going to be. So if you are ready, here we go.
I'm ready.
Weather conspiracies.
Oh, God. You told me like a couple of the ones it could be, and this was not in the preview, and I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this.
Well, we're going to talk about weather conspiracies. Okay.
Is this like chemtrails? Like chemtrails?
Yeah, chemtrails. The reason for acid rain. I know people have had some thoughts about that. The government's controlling our weather. I've heard that one as well. What do you think? Is the government controlling our weather?
I don't think they're controlling it now. I think, you know, at least what I've heard of this, my understanding of this conspiracy, it was always very like Joe Biden centric. And I don't know that the people who had this conspiracy then still have it. Do you think like I haven't heard anybody say like Trump controls the weather. I have heard people say Joe Biden controls the weather.
We still have flat earthers, Will. I'm pretty sure there are people who believe that there is a weather conspiracy, that it is being controlled by the government or by the Illuminati, Professor Xavier. I don't know. Somebody is controlling the weather.
I really struggle with the idea that any government, whether it's the current, the previous, or any former administration, is competent enough to pull off something like that. I do believe that they would be interested to know how to control the weather if they could. I'm not saying, I don't feel that it's not happening because I have faith that they wouldn't do it. I just think that they couldn't pull it off.
I mean, it's probably pretty tough. How would you even do it? A computer program, I guess? Like, it reminds me of a horrible movie I saw. What was that one called? It was the Mandela Effect is what it was called. It was a very B movie. It was on Hulu. And I'm very involved. I'm very interested in the Mandela effect. I think it's a quite the phenomenon. But I watched this movie, and
I'm familiar with the
basically,
phrase, but not the movie. Yeah.
right. Well, the movie is basically this guy finds out that the entire world runs off code. And it's not because it's being controlled by another entity. Somehow, they don't explain how, the world is run off code. And so he codes it to bring his daughter back. And
The world.
I just don't like the war. Like, he codes the world. He basically goes to some supercomputer in like Japan, and he's like, I'm going to implement my code into the supercomputer and my daughter is going to be back. And then he wakes up and his daughter's back. And it's like all, and then you just start seeing these weird glitches, like people's faces start like, going off, and it's like, oh, I screwed up the code. I got to fix it. He's like in this weird nightmare. It was a horrible movie. Do not watch it. But it just makes me think, I guess that's how we would control the weather, is we'd have to write code and then upload it to a supercomputer.
Well, that would
And it
assume
would,
the world was like running on it already, though, right?
right. Yeah.
So like we could write the code if like first we would need to determine if we're in a simulation, right? And if we
Yes.
are, then yeah, you just code it. But if which is I mean, we could go into that whole thing too, because
Are
that's
we in a simulation, Will?
I certainly think we could be. I don't think that we are. Okay, so when you do the simulation talk, which I think that is the crux of the weather, unless you really think they literally can control the weather like that way, which I guess is a different way to look at it. But if you think that the reason the government can control the weather is because we live in a simulation and blah 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 blah, then at that point you're also talking about like, are we really do we have free will? Are we really conscious? All of that stuff. And I don't know if we are in a simulation where the government controls the weather, then I don't know that simulation like definitively means we don't have free will. If it does mean that, then like they could probably control the weather just the same. But if it doesn't, I don't know that they could control the weather any better in that simulation than they would like the real weather. It's like all the algorithms on your social media and stuff, like the YouTube feed and your Twitter feed and all of that. Like a lot of the people who work for, Twitter or YouTube don't really know how their algorithms work. Like they know they fed it into their machine learning and did, X number of generations of it dying and being reborn and saying, but they just know the algorithm makes like more video views. They don't really know how to tell you, so the machine in that sense, like if the weather machine is a simulation machine, I don't know that the people running the simulation would know how to control the weather either. They would just be like feeding their algorithm data, and they're like, I don't really know why it's raining. Like
We screwed up that line. Now it's raining. It's raining tigers now.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what did we do?
So like all those kind of like thought experiment things where it's like, is reality really real, and do our decisions matter? It's like unless you can like really look at the code and interpret it line by line, which I don't believe anything sufficiently complex you be able to. I don't think you could. Like, so at that point, if you're saying like we don't have free will and we, can or can't control the weather because like this, we've definitively said this is a simulation. We've definitively said it's fake. But what does that really mean? Like, what does fake mean in that sense? Like, right? Like if you can't and no one and no entity and no animal and no human can like interact with this thing that you've decided is fake, what is the difference between that and reality? What difference does it make? Like, you're like, well, but somebody wrote your code. Like, well, somebody, my mom and my dad wrote my biological code when they pooped me out of my mom's butt when I was a baby, like,
Is that
like
how
that's,
it works?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I've checked with the scientists.
Oh, okay.
So like, biology is like a code, right? So weather is a code. Like, do I think it's theoretically possible to control the weather? Absolutely. Do I think it's like practically, realistically going to happen based on like the complexities of these systems? Probably not.
Did you ever read The Giver in school?
No, that my nephew told me about it. That's the one where it's like he controls like the future or something, and it's a youth book, right? Like a young adult book.
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
I think I read it in middle school, maybe even high school. Yeah, The Giver, which it was one of the better books. That one you can read. I do not watch Mandela Effect. Do read The Giver.
You read The Giver. Okay.
But yeah, it's basically it's a futuristic setting where they basically live in a giant bubble, and they don't realize they live in a giant bubble. And you find out kind of weird things early on. They've got like they decide early on if you're, what your career path is going to be, kind of like Japan.
Oh, like
right?
it's like a caste system thing or whatever,
Yeah,
where they
and
pick your
and
life for you.
so then you come to find out that there is one job where, and I think Jonah is the name of the main character. There's one job of a man who, he's a very old man in this book, and they literally call him the Giver, and he is someone who I think, that's what, because he has all the memories of the past. He knows how this bubble came to be. He knows what's going on, what led to this point, how humans interacted 300 years ago. And so this kid, he gets selected to be the next giver. And there's obviously only one in this society. So he goes and he meets this giver guy. And one of the first things he shares with them is weather. And because in this society, in this bubble, it's always sunny, it's always beautiful. Well, then he learns about snow and rain and tornadoes. And obviously the book goes on from there. There's even one really graphic scene where they decide
tornadoes
that,
like blowing a dude.
Whoa, what? Excuse me?
I just hear the word graphic scene and it doesn't
not that kind of book there, Will.
Oh, okay.
And not that kind of show either. Jeez. But there's a
like,
scene
because it's the wind. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Blow like the wind. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Get
All
your
right.
mind out
I'll
of the
remove
gutter.
the explicit tag now.
Yeah.
Thank you. But there's a scene where like he's learning about it's what his dad does. And his dad, I guess if they determine that a baby is not capable, they call it like releasing or something. When you're old, you are allowed to release from the society or something. And they thought it means, you leave this bubble and you just go live a life somewhere else. No, they kill you is what they do.
You're dead.
And so this baby, and it's once you're not useful to society anymore. And there's a scene where he sees this baby and the dad is working on the baby, and it's like, this baby needs to be released, and he can't find a vein in his arm to lethally inject him, so he just stabs him in the head and then like throws him down this chute, and the baby's gone.
Because the baby would have done a thing to society. It would have changed the algorithm.
Something like that. It's been a while since I've read it, and we're going way off topic here, and that's totally okay.
That's the point here.
That's what this show is. These conversations go nowhere. But yeah, for me, like that's kind of what I thought of right when I saw weather conspiracies pop up. I'm like, like I remember them, like that was the first thing that Jonah learned in The Giver was, we control the weather. There's this thing called snow. And it makes me think, will we ever get to a point like that? I will tell you, I don't care what anyone says. We are not at that point now. They are not controlling the weather. If they were controlling the weather, we wouldn't be getting random ice storms in the middle of February. We wouldn't be getting 105-degree days in Texas. Like,
it would be way better.
People are really that sinister.
Well, and all these like conspiracy theorist ideas, they always go to this really like grandiose thing, right? It's like they're putting nanobots in my DNA when they give me, when I do a blood transfusion or whatever, right? Now I'm like a puppet of it's always like crazy stuff like that, right? But like in reality, in my opinion, the actual manipulative mechanisms that, large governments or bodies or institutions or whatever actually using are much more they're smaller in terms of like it's things like gerrymandering in elections or like socioeconomic factors where we're adjusting for tax or inflations or giving breaks to groups that we like, and not that those are the kind of like real mechanisms that to me are like the more believable kinds of I wouldn't even call them conspiracy theories. It's just sort of like wielding power. But it feels like when people don't want to think about kind of like those more nuanced mechanisms that, their life or society at large or whatever is being controlled or manipulated by in some way, it's like they don't want to think about it. They need to make it this grander thing where it's like, no, like George W. Bush put a lightning bolt machine in my backyard, and that's why my grandma died. Like it's just much more. Like,
Why would he do that?
But George Bush might have like inflated the price of your grandma's cancer medication, and that might be why she died. But that's like a lot less interesting and fun to hear.
It's the lightning.
Do you remember George W. Bush? Remember when we thought that guy sucked? Man,
yeah,
what
right?
Isn't
that weird?
Time to be alive.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Like I was listening to there was an Eminem song where he mentions George Bush coming to his defenses, like that day will never come. And I thought, man, like we really hated George W. Bush. He was
all
such an ass.
Yeah.
And now it's funny. He's like, I see. Well, and it is kind of like, time kind of heals wounds too. I mean, obviously there's other reasons why we feel that way now, but it's funny because like I see him now sitting there with, Bill Clinton and past presidents. And I'm just like, oh, look at sweet little George W. Bush.
Hey,
He's so cute. I just want to give him a little pinch on the chinky. But it's like, oh yeah, at one point, I'm pretty sure everybody in the world wanted to go after that guy. Well, not everybody in the world. I guess Democrats wanted to go after that guy.
Well, and I do feel like, yeah, like you look back at some of the stuff, when we talk about weather conspiracies, I'm thinking immediately of just, current political conspiratorial, stuff. And obviously like January 6th and all that stuff that has occurred more recently. And it's just like, I do remember there being conspiracy theories like throughout my life. Since I've been young enough to vote and participate in politics, there's always been like, well, this guy's actually doing that, and this guy's really doing that, or Hillary Clinton's emails, or any of these things. But I feel like, oh, you got a little cat over there. What's that guy doing? What's that guy doing?
That is Dr. Zoidberg. He's
Dr.
Zoidberg. To hang out. Yep.
All right. My cat is
Futurama stole that. Futurama stole the name from us. We came up with that first.
That makes sense. Yeah,
he's actually 45 years old.
No, actually, look a day over 42.
He is old. He's 15. So we're enjoying our time with him.
I'm getting to that point where I have to like acknowledge that she's geriatric, and I do not like it.
Yeah, there was one day where I looked over at Zoidberg and he had a like his lip looked all weird. I'm like, what is going on with your lip? So I like pried open his mouth and I like, oh, your tooth's sticking out. And so I went to like push the tooth back in and it just popped out.
Oh,
and I was like, oh no, old cat moment.
Lost an incisor there.
Yep.
But I probably only have a few more years before I have to really, because she's starting to, like I said, she's 13 and she's still pretty spry, but like I went to the vet and they were like, technically she is geriatric, so you should probably get these blood work samples done. I was like, what? That
sounds like a conspiracy to me.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, I don't know. There's just been more conspiracy stuff. I feel like in the last, I don't know, what are we at now? This Biden cycle is the last like 12 years. I feel like there's been so much more weird, there's like QAnon shaman stuff and Jeffrey Epstein stuff. And like, so I think when people talk about weather conspiracies, they're just like, it's a lot easier to think about, Donald Trump being a wizard in a purple hat who controls lightning bolts than it is to think about the fact that like Jeffrey Epstein is, boofing children in the White House because he's somehow connected to every president ever. That's a way harder like pill to swallow, I feel like, than, lightning bolts and snow in July. They made a machine to do that.
I saw a documentary once about it's a really famous city where this gentleman was in this weird frozen suit, and he actually tried to freeze the entire city until George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell had to go stop. Oh, and Alicia Silverstone, I believe. I think
Uma Thurman was there too, right?
Yeah, right. Yep. Uma Thurman was there, and then some big weird guy that would just go bomb.
He'll be on the podcast soon.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna have him.
That guy, yeah.
Of course, I'm talking about the great Batman and Robin movie, one of the greatest films of all time. But
the movie that asked the philosophical question: what killed the dinosaurs?
The Ice Age.
The Ice Age. What a
Batman! I see you.
I need to know like how much cocaine they were on when they were like, who is going to be Mr. Freeze?
The most like low key, like every other iteration of Mr. Freeze we've seen has been I am Victor Freeze and I'm trying to save my wife. Let's get the most animated, big, tough guy ever. Just, Batman, I will get you.
There's so much ice in my veins. I swear my vengeance for my wife.
Now,
Why do you
there's a
control the weather? I
conspiracy.
control the weather. I'm Mr. Freeze.
How did that happen? Arnold Schwarzenegger. He
Was
did
it
he have
Joel
like
Silverstein or something?
Schumacher?
Joel Schumacher. Yeah, I think that guy is probably to blame. Would be my guess.
Yeah. There had to be like some kind of like he had some like naked pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein or something, right?
They found a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger with his hands on the weather machine about to turn it to snow. And they were like, the only way we can kill this is to just take it head on. We're going to make him Mr. Freeze in the movie. So clearly, if anybody could control the weather, they wouldn't play Mr. Freeze in a movie, right?
Right.
That's the rub. That's the conspiracy.
So the scene where he's shooting the gun into Gotham, that's like a real scene.
It's real. It's not CGI. They did not.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Man, we are so educational here at the Pondcast.
People don't even know these things.
They do. So what's a conspiracy you actually believe? Doesn't not have to be weather related. Do you believe in any conspiracy?
Like currently, no. I'm an obnoxious skeptic, if that didn't already come through.
Pretty sure I knew that.
Yeah, I'm very into James Randi and Penn and Teller and the whole skeptics movement. But if I had to think of one that I bit on, besides all of the religion, it was those are the biggest conspiracies, don't you know? Yeah. Besides all of those, when I was younger,
back to the 1920s. Yeah. Wow, you're a real gumshoe, see?
You're on the trolley now, see? So yeah, as a kid, I was very like, into all of that stuff, and that was like kind of a big part. But one of the ones that I did kind of bite on was in high school. Do you remember the DC sniper shooter guy?
Yes, that was creepy.
So, and I don't know that it was because it was really happening. So I don't know that it's a conspiracy to say that, like, because it did happen, but I remember, like, for however many months, I remember it was just like a day. It was like a Tuesday, and I would get home from school, and I would get off the bus, and I would just look out the window, and it would be like every car that like drove by my house, I would have like a mini panic attack that like there was going to be a guy in there shooting at me. And I'm sure it didn't help that we had who was that history teacher? Was it Mr. West?
Mr. West, yes, there was a Mr. West there.
He like talked about it so much. Oh yeah, for everybody who wouldn't already know, we did go to high school together, Jeff and I.
That's true. So, yes,
that's why I'm here.
That's true. Yes, Will and I did go to high school together. As I've always said, the Francis Howell here in St. Louis. Well, I guess St. Charles technically. St. Louis people would be mad if we said that we're from St. Louis, but so in St. Charles, Francis Howell High School, I always say they're going to erect a statue of me eventually. I could maybe try to get a miniature version of you included in that if you want, like a Dr.
I don't think
Evil
they remember me that
situation.
well there.
They should.
I don't. I think I was as popular as a really nerdy introvert could be. I think.
Yes.
I think I that's kind of been my shtick. I'm not like you or the Joe of the world. I'm not that crazy extrovert guy. I kind of have I can go toe to toe with you in like this format, right? For an amount of time. And then when this is over, I feel like you're just going to go out and like continue speaking to people. And I'm going to like put my hoodie on and just be like, because it's a limited amount of extroverted.
You've got me pegged. I just walk around the neighborhood, knock on doors. Hey, how's it going? Like, oh God, it's that annoying J Ponder 94 guy. Jeez, leave us alone.
I just imagine you just like saying hi to people at all times. You're just that very like, you've always been that kind of like personable. You have like the personality, like the clothing equivalent to your personality is like an approachable suit. Not like, and it's not like a stuffy one, right? Like you look very nice, but you also look approachable. Like it's like a suit with like a friendly, like your undershirt is like a cartoon duck. That's like the clothing version of your personality. It's like professional, and it's like there, but it's also loose, and you can kind of
So
go
I
in.
will say something that I used to do when I was, having to get dressed up for work all the time and, going into an office wearing a suit and stuff. Typically my undershirt would always be like some kind of like Captain America undershirt, or I
Something
had
a
an
little silly.
Animaniacs one that I wore. And like, I would always be like, hey, I'm still me because I'm wearing this stupid shit that I should not be wearing into an office.
It feels good. Doesn't it feel good to like kind of like slightly push back at the corporate overlords? I don't even remember how many years back now. I just decided, you know what? I'm not wearing dress shoes. Those guys
Yep.
can eat. Those guys can eat my whole butt, and whoever those
Yep.
guys are, the people who determine what you're supposed to wear when you're an adult. I'm like, I'm gonna wear my suit with tennis shoes because
Yep.
that's what I'm gonna do.
So my big thing that I always pushed back on was I would always wear my ankle socks instead of long dress socks. So if I was sitting there talking to someone and I'd cross my leg, they'd see my leg hair sticking out because I have hairy legs.
How could
And
they
they'd be
control
like,
themselves though?
and yeah, well, typically they would just be like, "Oh, Mr. Ponder, please show us more." And
Yeah,
I'd be like,
they're like that tornado. I know. Yeah, it's
right.
crazy.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
blowing tornado. Yeah, of course. But so yeah, that always made it a little awkward because it was like, okay, just calm down. We're having a serious conversation here. But yeah, I always did that. And then, obviously never wearing underwear and having a slit up the back of my pants so people could see my ass. Oh, is that not common? I'm sorry. I thought that was a
I was
common
completely
thing.
bought into this being an actual thing. So
How do you know it's not?
I,
Is this a conspiracy?
it might. Was that the conspiracy you bought into? Is that you always
Yes.
had a hole in your underwear, like as a
So
power move?
So back to that, your conspiracy. So you believed that you were just gonna have people randomly shooting at you as they
Dude,
drove by your house.
yeah. I think that's if you want to delve more into the therapy side of all of this, because for me, like, the religion
How are you
stuff for
feeling
me,
today, Will?
yeah, I'm feeling great. Like for me, like when I was a kid, like the religion stuff was always kind of like a weird safety blanket, but I also like really resented it for the way it kind of like told me what to do. And I think like kind of like as I broke through that in my early, teens or whatever, like part of that was like hearing pieces of information and not having that safety blanket of like, oh, like, the Lord will prevent you from being sniped because you're a white man and not like, what it's more like, that's like you have these things, you have God and your privilege on your side, that comfort blanket kind of like, the erosion of that. There was a period of my life where while I was kind of like going through that, I do think I was a little more susceptible to like kind of those kind of fear tactics that conspiracy theories tend to like take advantage of. And I do think that's how people get sucked into that. Like that's got to be how you become a QAnon shaman, right? Like you have to be
Mhm.
you have to be just really scared of something and you don't have another kind of coping mechanism to help you deal with it. Whether that's friends or just like a general familiar support structure, or even just like, just like media literacy or the ability to kind of like assess, all the information you're getting. And at some point, you don't necessarily realize it when it happens, but you fall into, oh, because I'm scared the DC sniper is going to shoot me in my backyard, maybe now I'm more likely to agree to some other thing because it makes me feel like I'm less likely to be sniped,
Yep. Yep.
But I think it was
That
a
makes
couple
sense.
months that I felt that way. And like, I do remember that, like I said, I think it was that history or social studies teacher we had who was a great guy, but he just talked about that like every day. It was like every day we went in and he'd be like, I remember seeing him at the front of class. This is like burned into my memory. He's like standing at the front of class and he's trying to give us all insight into this, whoever he is, this DC sniper's mind. And he looks at all of us and he stands. This guy was like really boisterous. Like he would really be like, and this is what we're doing with the blah. And so there's this point where he stood back in front of the whole class and was like, I have the finger of God and I point it and I say, who dies? And he like pointed it and he would, and we were just like, I'm like 16 and I was like, Jesus, like, which I think he was right. I think his theory about this guy's power trip for being like a weird serial killer is probably correct, but also like, we were supposed to be learning about like World War II
I think my conspiracy theory is that Mr. West was the DC sniper.
He was the DC sniper. He
Cover
really went like it was
cover
like
as a high school teacher in St. Charles, like perfect cover.
I think he was like going through some similar shit. You know what I mean? Like he probably had like he was probably scared and weirded out and didn't know what was going on. And if you think about back then too, like, and it's so crazy to like, I don't know how much of it is like the climate being different now, versus just me as an individual, or maybe even everybody as a society being a little bit more literate to political kind of swindling. I feel like I do think we societally are more aware of kind of like, it's kind of like when you first, started watching TV, you didn't understand like, everybody's just trying to put a commercial on to sell you something. And it's like now on the internet, there's just like ads everywhere. I feel like people are generally more aware that they're being sold to, but not everybody, right? But I think for back then, he probably heard some stuff about, I don't know, WMDs in Iraq and whatever conspiracy theory of the time. And then suddenly there's a DC sniper, and it's that combination of, fear and not knowing. And suddenly he can't help every single class at high school. Just like we would come in and he would be on the board, like frantically scribbling down notes about like the DC sniper. And he would turn around, and I remember students would ask him literally like, "Oh, what are we going to learn about Japan today?" And he would just be like, "That's not important."
We don't need to learn from our mistakes.
Like,
wow.
So that was one that bit, I think, for me. I will never forget that time.
So speaking of Japan, and this is honest, I'm not doing a bit here. I don't want to say I believe it, but I can see this one is more I understand why people believe that Pearl Harbor we knew was going to happen. I haven't heard this one. You haven't heard that? Oh yeah, the U.S. knew that the Japanese were coming to bomb
and
Pearl
we let
Harbor,
it happen because
and we let it happen because we wanted to join the war.
Okay,
and the war helped get us out of the Depression. And there's a lot of reasoning why it makes sense to me. Now, I'm not saying I believe it, but when I see the facts about it, I'm like, yeah, I mean, how did they not see this Japanese airstrike coming when they've got radar and they've got sonar and everything out there that can pick up, hey, there's a fleet of Japanese fighters coming our way. Like, they were not prepared at all. Now, Japanese, they've been known to be sneaky in the past. They're you know what that means. But so maybe they found their ways around it. Maybe they jammed the signals and we don't know, but I'm just saying that
those sneaky Japanese signal jammers.
Oh, sneaky Japanese, man.
You
never know.
They're always tiptoeing around my radar machine.
Yeah, right. Like, man. Oh man, yeah, we could. This conversation could really turn for the worse here if we continue down this path. But no, for me, like my grandpa would tell you, like, yeah, those sneaky Japs. I think that's where I got it from, because he fought in World War II and he always hated the Japanese. So yeah, that was always interesting talking to older people about Japanese and Germans.
Yes.
and it's like, well, it's like, it reminds me of the Parks and Rec line Chris Pratt's character says when they're doing did you ever watch Parks and Rec?
Yeah, I love that show. I've seen it twice. Yeah.
So the one where they're doing the Model UN, and they're asking Chris Pratt's character Andy, hey, can you be Iceland? And he's like, oh, you mean the bad guys from Mighty Ducks 2? Absolutely not. And then they said something else. I think he said like Karate Kid. They're like, how about the Germans? Oh yeah, the Germans, they were never the bad guys. I go, okay. But yeah, my grandpa, oh man, Japanese and Germans, absolutely hated them. And I remember one time my dad brought up with him that, oh yeah, I saw some report where people think that, the U.S. let Pearl Harbor happen. Oh, that's the most angry I've ever seen him. And he was like the most mild-mannered person. And he was just like, no, our government would never do that. That would never happen. And I'm just like, your government would do a lot of things that you probably would not approve of, but I get
it's
it.
So hard
you
to
fought
tell
in the
somebody
war
like that, like things about the current, because I don't. To me, that one doesn't sound. I get it, but it doesn't seem plausible to me, but like I get how it could. But regardless of, I guess whether somebody does or doesn't believe that particular one, it's like when you talk to one of these, greatest generation, like older folks, like my grandpa was like Korean War, World War II, all that stuff. He like flew a bomber plane, and it's like, how do you, for which side? for the Japanese. We're a very sneaky people, we Japanese.
Yes,
that's why you can't tell that I'm Japanese. I'm actually very Japanese.
That's very good. That's very good makeup you have on.
Yeah. Well, my grandpa
was a makeup artist.
My grandpa was a makeup artist for the Japanese military. And
he sounds really interesting.
He snuck us all in. So yeah, that's how he was just very good. Yeah, the blonde hair, the blue eyes, it's just makeup, really. It's so hard to tell somebody like that. It's interesting when you look at like some of the modern climate. Like we try to, I don't know, we try to be, a little more woke or whatever you want to call it these days. And like somebody linked a clip the other day of, do you remember the show? Oh God, what was the video game show with Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb? What was that show called? Was it just called like G4 or something? It was some old like video game like news show. I think it was called was it G4? That was the network.
G4 show X-Play.
Yeah, X-Play. Thank you.
There you go.
So there's like this clip of X-Play, and it's Morgan Webb from like, I don't know, like 2007 or 9, not that long ago. But like it long ago.
What year do you think it is?
It's 2011. So
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
It's like 15 years ago, right? Which I don't think it's crazy long, but it's long enough that, somebody's like, this is why like wokeism became a thing. And it's just Morgan Webb like reviewing a random video game. She's just like, here's a video game. By the way, the developer is from Japan. And then she just goes on this rant where she's like, and what good is Japan anyway? That's why we bombed them and destroyed their cities and turned them into a real country. Anyway, moving on.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you a clip from Morgan Webb on X-Play.
Genji's story is based on the Genji period of Japanese history. Well, we're not exactly sure how, but can you really blame us? Because who knows anything about Japanese history? There were some samurai, they periodically killed themselves, a rat learned judo, and they invented a religion that sanctifies small trees and fat guys wrestling. Then we nuked them. That's how they turned into a real country.
That concludes our clip of Morgan Webb on X-Play. Now back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
And it's literally just like it would be like the equivalent of, me like telling you that I just got a falafel sandwich. And by the way, that's why we should nuke Pakistan and turn them like, it's just like the most off the cuff, like, I don't understand. But that was just like a joke that they made. And like the difference is like we've been doing the Japanese racism bit for 5 minutes now or whatever. But the bit is like it acknowledges that it knows what it is. But like some of the stuff from that era, you're just like watching an episode of Friends, and they're like, who I hate? Black people. And you're just like, yeah. Jesus, this aired on Channel 5?
Yeah, right.
It's like, what? And there's no punchline. The punchline is just like, aren't gay people funny because they exist or something?
Yeah.
So there it is interesting when you look back at some of those, like some of the media that we consumed, how like ingrained some of that was. And I can't imagine, that was helpful with regard to the conspiratorial elements, right? When you're just kind of like reaffirming, like, there was just like a lot more like xenophobia or like nationalism, I feel like kind of embedded in the media we consumed and the ways that we like communicated, even as little as like 10 or 15 years ago. So at any rate, it's hard to tell somebody who participated in World War II and has racist thoughts that they're not okay. It's hard, right? Because it's like, what have I done in my life? Like my father like killed an 11-year-old in the jungles of Vietnam and had to like wrestle with that, like or hundreds of 11-year-olds even. Who knows? Like, I mean, Vietnam was a crazy time. And then he had to like come home and have all at once.
It was actually in a wrestling ring. It was in a wrestling ring in the middle of the jungle where
he just pile drove those children one.
The American Commando versus 15 11-year-olds.
But like, when people who go through stuff like that, it's like they then they come home and they like start a family, and it's like they're gonna have some weird thoughts. They've been through some crazy times, and like, what have I done? You know, I have a cat. That's pretty cool. Like, so like, of course, I can think about what is or isn't politically correct in a in an easier frame of mind.
Yeah, I'll admit. I mean, just talking to some of the people that I've talked to that have been in war, have been to Iraq or Afghanistan, and it's like, they're telling me, oh yeah, like one guy was telling me about this time where they were offered food from a family in Afghanistan and they ate it and they instantly got sick, and then within hours their base was invaded. And it's like, so this nice little family basically set you up to where you could be invaded. And it's just like, he's telling me the story and I'm like, yeah, I just beat Arkham Knight, like, I mean, what am I supposed to say to that conversation? Have you seen the latest
Marvel movie? I didn't care for it. Like,
yeah, not a fan of the second Thor movie. Did you get to see that when you were in Afghanistan? When you were recovering from your illness and being shot at, did you watch the second Thor movie?
I think that's where some of it, though, like back to the conspiracy stuff, I think that like on that end of it, it can happen too, where you're just like, I did this really hard thing or several hard things or lived a hard life or was raised in a shelter and like had these experiences. And then you're just trying to be like a genuine person and you say something that, maybe cosmically isn't okay, but people kind of do this thing now where they like willfully misinterpret. Like you can say something that like I feel like they like a lot of times, especially in the Twitterverse or, online, like terminally online people, they kind of like willfully misinterpret like what somebody says when you can tell like maybe what they said wasn't the most like appropriate wording, but it's like you can tell they're doing it either A, for comedic effect, or B, just innocuously because they don't understand. Like, but then they'll kind of jump onto that and just latch on and be like, actually, you're a terrible person. And it's like, there's only so much of that feedback you can get, especially if you're a person who doesn't understand. Like for me, I've just been online my whole life. I understand like sometimes some dumbass is just going to say something in the comments and I just have to let it go and move on with my life. But not everybody is like, equipped to handle that. And so if you're constantly getting this feedback that like, you're like this terrible person because maybe you don't understand like a particular nuance that you brought up in a group and you're just getting like repeatedly reamed over this thing, that can easily drive you into being like, actually, JD Vance built a snow machine and that's why. So, that can kind of feed back into that.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the one that has his hand on the button.
It's him.
Yes.
He could do it at any moment.
Arnold and JD Vance are, what? Maybe that's how we should end this, right? Let's create our own conspiracy. JD Vance has a snow machine, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is the one commanding it.
Okay.
Do you think he has to wear his Mr. Freeze outfit while he does it? I mean, it's probably like method acting, right? Like he'd be like, "Oh, it's like, I must wear my Mr. Freeze outfit because I'll feel more like the character."
I think he would probably still fit into the costume because he's slimmed down. It might be a little loose on him, but that's kind of its own horrifying thing. Like just a loose, haggard Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, I'll press the button. I swear to God, I will ice the city over 1,000 times if I have to. I don't know. I think if Trump is hiring Arnold Schwarzenegger to put his finger on the button, I have to ask, that's my conspiracy. Why Arnold Schwarzenegger? What don't I know about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his existence? Because he's been pretty, he's politically a pretty interesting guy, actually.
He is. But I mean, it all has to tie back to the fact that he was Mr. Freeze. He clearly understands weather patterns as Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
So, that's how deep his method acting went. He learned all about weather. He actually became a meteorologist for a couple of years. Did Channel 2, was there next to Trish Brown. Trish Brown. That's a name that hasn't been in St. Louis media in 20 years.
You got to get her on here, man.
There you go, Trish Brown. Yep, next episode. And I'll ask her about what she thinks about Arnold Schwarzenegger and JD Vance controlling the weather. She's gonna be like, "What seems
plausible to me?
Come on."
It seems plausible. Like they could clearly pull that off.
there's clearly an alternate dimension where that is actually happening. It makes sense to me. Will, this has been fun. I appreciate you coming on. Weather conspiracies, we both clearly know so much about it, and that's all we talked about. We didn't go off on any crazy tangents the whole time.
Very measured.
Will, how can people find you on social media, and anything else you'd like to promote?
You can find me on the Twitterverse if you like my inane ramblings, at @MetalMusicMan_, because I don't have the original account because I'm not cool enough. You can find me on YouTube, also at MetalMusicMan. And if you really want to listen to more ramblings, I have an old podcast called the Metal and Lex Podcast that you can check out. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been a lot of fun. I hope this continues to go on as a pretty cool little project.
I agree. This has been fun, and it's been awesome, and I'm loving having conversations with you. We'll probably have to have you back on if this continues. We may only have 1-2 listeners. Trish Brown, I know she's going to tune in.
She's very into it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger might be tuning in as well, so we'll see. And he's like, how did they find out? So what is on your YouTube channel for people who might be interested?
I do a lot of video game content. I've been a little less active recently, just because, I don't know, being old is a blow up. But I used to do a lot of tutorial videos. I still do a bit of those. I've done a little bit more programming stuff recently. So I programmed some like add-ons for World of Warcraft and some stuff there. If you're into competitive fighting games like Street Fighter or Smash Brothers, I have a lot of tutorials on there. You can check out the Street Fighter's Guide to Smash, the Book of Oni. I've got a bunch of different just tutorials for fighting games and stuff like that. So that's kind of like typically been my big niche. Currently, I am in the Path of Exile 2 Vortex, though, so I'm just fully cracked out on that game. So there'll probably be some uploads for that. I'm playing a big dragon who bites people's heads off. That's pretty fun. So yeah, awesome. General nerddom and all that good stuff. Yeah.
All right, well, here's your next project for your World of Warcraft programming. You can do something about controlling the weather in the World of Warcraft. So
there actually are quests already that do that. So, and WoW's really already set up. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I was going to say, in my MLB The Show, I control the weather. I tell if I want it to rain, do I want it to be sunny? Do I want it to have clouds? So we're already doing that. And if there is a true overlord that is changing our weather every day, they know the feeling. So I'm with you, overlords. The Pondcast, conversations that go nowhere. Produced by Jeff Ponder. Executive produced by Jeff Ponder. Music by Loud C. Smith. Talent booking by Jeff Ponder. Engineering and mixing by Jeff Ponder. A special thanks goes out to House of Paws Pet Care for providing my hair gel. Remember to rate and review the Pondcast, conversations that go nowhere, just because you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you can get some heaven points by rating and reviewing. It's a win-win. Follow the Pondcast on all social media channels with the profile handle @PondcastConvos. Thanks for listening.